love what you're wearing.
Oh, you do? Yeah? Oh, well, this tie is a present from Grammy.
Life imitates art, and movies have definitely influenced the way we've lived our lives since their inception. Here are some real-life examples of trends that people only started doing because of the big screen. But first, a simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We are giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or MacBook Pro. It's all your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. Number 1, Borat impressions from the movie Borat. 2006 was definitely a remarkable year, if only for all the Borat references you'll hear all around, with or without context. 14 years later, it's still one of the most quoted films of all time, especially with accented catchphrases like "my wife" or "great success." You'd even wonder if all those people doing Borat impressions actually watched the movie, or if they're just so familiar with the pop culture references that they can basically quote half the movie without ever having to watch it. Number 2, green scarves, confessions of a shopaholic. The color green has always been controversial in the world of fashion, particularly because not everyone can pull it off, especially when mixed with other colors. But Confessions of a Shopaholic presented the iconic green scarf as an irresistible piece of fashion that Rebecca Bloomwood just had to have despite her apparent lack of money or credit. Because of this, the lightweight green scarf became a staple in the closet of every fashionista of the Sophie Kinsella era. The girl in the green scarf ended up being a pretty good role model after all. Number 3, wearing pink on Wednesdays. Mean Girls. There are a lot of real-life trends and quotable quotes that originated from Mean Girls, like dancing to Jingle Bell Rock around the holidays and pointing out the date whenever it's October 3rd. But the most popular of them all is wearing pink on Wednesdays. It's one of the cardinal rules established by the Plastics, and one that has stood the test of time. Some establishments even started doing pink days, where they'd give out discounts for customers who came in wearing pink during Wednesdays, just like Baskin and Robbins. Number 4, low-cost horror films. The Blair Witch Project. Once upon a time, horror films were the hardest kinds of movies to produce because of the high budget they usually needed for prosthetics, special effects, and complex editing. That was before the breakthrough success of The Blair Witch Project, which paved the way for the advent of low-cost films that take on the form of found footage, which honestly creates a more threatening aura of terror because of its rawness and realism. If not for The Blair Witch Project, we would never have had Paranormal Activity, because it followed the same found footage formula that horror nuts just love. Number 5, watching Love Actually in December. Love Actually is one of those films that's not exactly critically acclaimed, but holds a special place in the hearts of many people. Aside from forever incorporating at least 3 lobsters in every nativity play, and also giving us a wonderful rendition of All I Want for Christmas, this film also started the tradition of watching it every December to officially start the holiday season, and to feel that Christmas is indeed all around us. So if you really love Christmas, come on and let it snow indeed. Number 6, comic book adaptations. X-Men. If your favorite film is a comic book adaptation, then you have X-Men to thank for starting that tradition. Even though Richard Donner's Superman in 1978 and Tim Burton's 1989 Batman were both commercial successes, it wasn't until the turn of the century that the genre really began gaining traction. The almost $300 million gross sales of X-Men proved that there was sufficient demand for blockbuster adaptations of comic book heroes, and Hollywood's latest obsession was thus born. Following the critical and commercial success of X-Men, studios everywhere scrambled to adapt any comic book property they could get rights on. Number 7, men's clothes as high fashion for women. Annie Hall. You can't think about Annie Hall without picturing Diane Keaton in her iconic clothes that made it look like she had just sold out the men's section in a luxury fashion store in Paris. Annie Hall introduced us all to the wonderful world of borrowed from the boys fashion. Suddenly, women everywhere were shopping for khaki pants, vests, ties, and even bowler hats worn down low to conceal the forehead, and thus began the high demand for androgynous models who could pull off clothes from both ends of the department store spectrum. Number 8, Ray-Ban Wayfarers. Risky business. Once upon a time, Ray-Bans were able to make the seamless transition from being a military accessory to a fashion staple for the gents. Celebrities like James Dean and Marlon Brando were sporting them on the daily. Then came the 80s, when chunky accessories threatened to take over the simplicity of the Ray-Ban. Sales of the once iconic aviators took a nosedive until a pants-free Tom Cruise on Risky Business dictated that it was once again cool to wear Wayfarers. Sales shot up by 50%, which is saying something, surprising considering Ray-Ban was, at the time, already about to discontinue the Wayfarers. Guess there's nothing a half-naked Tom Cruise can't do, eh? Number 9. The creation of real-life fight clubs. Fight Club. Although one might argue that the movie Fight Club should have had the effect of turning people against underground fight rings, it had the exact opposite effect, because there was something mysterious and badass about running a fight club that you can't talk about with people who are not in it. The movie did start a trend of true-to-life fight clubs that gave authorities a headache because, well, no one was allowed to talk about fight clubs. Rounding up these underground organizations proved challenging, and word has it that the police never really shuttered the last of these fight clubs in America. Number 10. Buying clownfish as pets. Finding Nemo. Thanks to this highly emotional and endlessly entertaining animated film, the world fell in love with clownfish back in 2003. Soon after, pet stores were flooded with families asking how they could get their kids their very own Nemo. While keeping fish as pets is not necessarily a bad thing, the impossible demand spurned by Finding Nemo seriously threatened the population of clownfish in the ocean, with their numbers dropping by as much as 75% since the film's release. This is why Disney was particularly careful about their release of Finding Dory, because the blue tangfish was smaller in population. So part of their promotion for the film was reminding kids that it's better for Dory to be in the ocean than cooped up in an aquarium at home. Number 11. Keeping Dalmatians as pets. 101 Dalmatians. Similar to the impact of Finding Nemo, kids who watched a 101 Dalmatians begged and begged their parents to get them their own Pongo. The thing is, real-life Dalmatians are not as nearly as friendly and easily trainable as the films purported them to be. In fact, they're prone to destroying stuff and biting their owners when they get agitated. As an effect, many families who bought Dalmatians due to the 101 Dalmatians fever ended up dropping them off at pounds or on roadsides when the puppies proved to be a handful when growing up. Number 12. Guy Fawkes mask. V for Vendetta. Since the 2005 release of the film V for Vendetta, the use of Guy Fawkes masks has spread internationally, particularly among groups protesting against politicians, banks, and financial institutions. The masks both conceal the identity of demonstrators and show their commitment to a shared cause. It also became a popular Halloween costume, and it still is. But arguably, the biggest influence of the movie is the appropriation of the mask by hacktivist group Anonymous. So when you open up your website and you see a Guy Fawkes mask instead of your landing page, you know you're being watched. Number 13. Cinematic Universes. Iron Man. It was towards the end of the Iron Man franchise that the idea of an Avengers project was first floated, and thus the first ever cinematic universe was born. Before, there were only series and franchises, but not really films that exist in one universe despite featuring vastly different characters, plot lines, and villains. Iron Man is truly in a class of itself, having born into existence the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Oh, and it also started a trend among kids telling their parents, "I love you 3000," and that will always melt the hearts of parents around the world. Number 14. Bright pink as a fashionable choice. Legally Blonde. Even before the plastics popularized wearing pinks on Wednesdays, Elle Woods already made bright pink a fashionable choice instead of a tacky option that was usually reserved for drag queens and showgirls. In fact, many girls were trying to copy Elle's look at the beginning of the 2000s. It became normal for girls to showcase a lot of pink colors, a deep neckline, high slit, and a small dog as an accessory. Thanks to this film, pink ceased to be a color that only frivolous girls and drag queens wear, and the color became trendy again. Number 15. A passion for symmetry and complementing color palettes. Any Wes Anderson film. Anderson's choice of colors and obsession with symmetry always make for visually striking scenes that were once described as an immaculate ability to merge the worlds of fashion and film. Because of how well he combines the elements of design and emotion, he was able to convey darkness and sadness while using vibrant and beautiful colors. Thus started a new trend that doesn't automatically attach blacks and grays to sadness and bright pastel colors to happiness and joy. Wes Anderson completely changed aesthetic trends, especially for the young generation. Number 16. The Little Black Dress. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Thanks to this timeless classic, every girl has a trusty little black dress that permanently resides in their closet, ready to be busted out for emergency parties and situations that call for something classy and also a little bit racy. Like The Devil Wears Prada and Sex and the City, Breakfast at Tiffany's gave us that one iconic ensemble composed of a black Givenchy number, a diamond necklace, and velvet gloves. Indeed, Holly Golightly is a style icon for the ages. No wonder Givenchy loved her so much. There you have it, 16 real-life trends that came from movies, proving once again that life does imitate art more often than we are aware of.